The following presentation is brought to you by Discovery Education, leading the world of digital and video learning. Discovery Education, connect to a world of learning.
Jack Roosevelt Robinson was born on January 31, 1919, in Cairo, Georgia. He died on October 24, 1972, in Stamford, Connecticut. On April 15, 1947, Jackie Robinson stepped up to the plate to bat for the Brooklyn Dodgers at Ebbets Field in New York City and broke baseball's color barrier. He quickly became baseball's top drawing card and was named National League Rookie of the Year. Over the years that followed, his courage, strength of character, and extraordinary talent forever changed the way Americans viewed not only baseball, but also one another.
When Jackie Robinson came up to bat for the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947, he made sports history by breaking baseball's color barrier. Up until that time, no person of color had been allowed to play in the major leagues. He was successful immediately and was named Rookie of the Year. Robinson began his career playing first base, but later made his mark as a great second baseman and consistent hitter. Robinson was a relentless competitor, yet he faced insults and abuse fueled by racial bigotry with dignity and courage. His friends always stood by him, and Robinson's confident determination never wavered. In 1949, he won the Most Valuable Player award and led the Dodgers to the National League pennant. That same year, he appeared before the House Un-American Activities Committee to counter entertainer and activist Paul Robeson's declaration that African Americans would not support the fight against communism. Robinson was also a strong advocate for civil rights and the end of Jim Crow laws. Teammates Don Newcomb and Roy Campanella successfully followed in Robinson's footsteps, further confirming the vision and wisdom of Dodgers president Branch Rickey.
I hope that your work this coming season will be such that you will even merit even a better contract than this one.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Rickey. I'm certainly pleased with the contract, and that last little bit you said, I hope to do it as well as last year, get a better contract. Thank you very much.
A person's ability, not his color, had become the most important factor in hiring Major League Baseball players. Robinson once described himself as a one-woman man looking for a one-man woman. He found his woman, Rachel Isum, while both were students at UCLA. They were married in 1946. Before coming to Ebbets Field in 1947, hard work and determination had taken Robinson from his humble birthplace in Georgia to California and football fame. Whatever game he played to win. Despite intolerance and adversity, Jackie Robinson pushed ahead, earning the respect of his fans, friends, and fellow players. Many baseball experts of that time said they had not seen such a daring base runner as Robinson since the great Ty Cobb. Robinson retired in 1955, but fans still remember his great fielding, his flashing bat, and his bold base running. He endured the frustrations and pain of being a trailblazer and still gave record-breaking performances. The first African-American player elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, Jackie Robinson stands as a symbol of hope, opportunity, and a new era in professional sports.
Jackie Robinson, a lifetime of achievements. Jackie Robinson's mother, Mally, moved her family of 5 from Georgia to Pasadena, California in 1920, seeking a better life and advancement for herself and her children. Encouraged by his mother and several mentors, Robinson turned his energy to sports, including soccer, football, tennis, basketball, and track. While attending Muir Technical High School and Pasadena Junior College, Robinson earned letters in football, baseball, basketball, and track. In 1939, he turned down offers from universities nationwide to attend the University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA. While at UCLA, Jackie Robinson became the first athlete in the history of the university to letter in 4 sports in the same year: baseball, football, basketball, and track. In 1941, he left college due to financial pressures and worked briefly as an athletic director in the National Youth Administration before joining the Honolulu Bears, a semi-professional, racially integrated football team in Hawaii. Following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, Robinson returned to the mainland and in 1942 was drafted into the U.S. Army. He was accepted for officer training and commissioned as a lieutenant in 1943. In 1945, a year after an honorable discharge from service, Robinson signed to play baseball with the Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro American League. Branch Rickey, the president of the Brooklyn Dodgers, wanted to end segregation in Major League Baseball. Impressed by Robinson's talent, character, and emotional stamina, Rickey signed Robinson to play for the Montreal Royals in October of 1945. Rickey brought Robinson up from the minors in 1947 to open the season with the Brooklyn Dodgers. Robinson's outstanding performance earned him the title of Major League Rookie of the Year. Between 1947 and 1956, with Robinson on the roster, the Dodgers won 6 National League pennants. The team also defeated the New York Yankees to win the 1955 World Series. Jackie Robinson was inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame in 1962. A symbol of recognition and victory for Robinson, and one of hope for African Americans in the struggle against injustice and prejudice. Following retirement, Jackie Robinson entered the business world. At the same time, he became an outspoken advocate for equal rights and opportunities for African Americans. George Herman Babe Ruth was born on February 6, 1895 in Baltimore, Maryland. He died on August 16, 1948 in New York City. Few baseball players have reached the status of Babe Ruth. By the end of his 22-year professional career, the Sultan of SWAT, as he was called, ranked as the most prolific home run hitter of all time. As a pitcher, he continues to hold the record for the longest complete game victory in World Series history. Babe Ruth was among the first 5 inductees into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936 and is considered by many people to be the greatest player of all time.
Babe Ruth was born in the slums of Baltimore. He came to the major leagues from St. Mary's Industrial School for Unprivileged Boys. He played for the Baltimore Orioles and then was traded to the Boston Red Sox. He was a successful pitcher and threw a record of 29 consecutive scoreless innings in World Series play. After being traded to the Yankees, he emerged as baseball's greatest slugger. Babe Ruth loved his fans. He was famous and a national hero, but he seemed most comfortable around children who idolized him so much. He caught the imagination of baseball fans everywhere and set more records than any other player in the history of baseball. Nicknamed Great Bambino, he was sold to the New York Yankees in 1920 for a record price, a deal that changed the course of modern baseball history. The Yankees would go on to win 39 American League pennants and 29 World Series titles. Babe hit 714 home runs, just like this one, in his 21-year career of matchless play. In 1927, Babe blasted 60 home runs and was officially crowned Sultan of SWAT. The undisputed home run king could also play for laughs. After the Babe's dazzling 1919 season, Hollywood production companies made deals to put him in motion pictures. His first film was released as he was concluding yet another record year. The Bambino's fame and personality drew long lines of fans to the box office. Babe retired from baseball in 1934 and switched his tremendous slugging power to a gentler sport. Considering his unathletic upper body and spindly legs, Ruth's skills and coordination were amazing to watch. In 1948, seriously ill with cancer, Ruth returned to Yankee Stadium, now fondly known as the house that Ruth built. Leaders from around the country came to honor and remember the Babe of old, the immortal number 3. Babe Ruth died soon after that. The Sultan of Swat launched the modern era of baseball. Babe Ruth's name will hold a place of honor in baseball's Hall of Fame forever.
Babe Ruth, a lifetime of achievements. In 1902, at the age of 7, George Herman Babe Ruth Jr. was taken to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, a reformatory and orphanage. He remained there for 12 years. Babe's ability as a pitcher and catcher on St. Mary's baseball team attracted the attention of Jack Dunn, the owner and manager of the Baltimore Orioles. He signed Babe Ruth to a contract in 1914. 5 months later, the Boston Red Sox purchased Babe Ruth's contract and he became a major league player. From 1915 to 1917, Ruth won 65 games, the most by any left-handed pitcher in the majors during that time. Babe Ruth still holds the record for the longest complete game victory in World Series history. In December 1919, new Red Sox owner Harry Frazee sold Ruth to the New York Yankees. During his first season with the Yankees, Ruth hit an amazing 54 home runs, destroying his own home run record of 29 set the year before. By 1923, Babe Ruth's star quality and popularity had drawn so many fans that the team could afford to build Yankee Stadium. It became known as the house that Ruth built. In 1927, Ruth hit 60 home runs during a 154-game season, a record that stood until 1961. Babe Ruth's career mark of 714 home runs stood as the all-time record for 39 years, until Hank Aaron hit his 715th home run on opening day of the 1974 season. Ruth's career .690 slugging percentage continues to be the highest in the history of Major League Baseball. To date, Babe Ruth is the only player to hit 3 home runs in a World Series game on 2 separate occasions. Babe Ruth played his last game on May 30th, 1935. Joe Louis Barrow was born on May 13, 1914 in Lafayette, Alabama. He died on April 12, 1981 in Las Vegas, Nevada. One of the greatest prize fighters of all time, Joe Louis came onto the professional boxing scene in 1934. He won his first 27 fights and became known as the Brown Bomber. From outstanding amateur to world heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Louis embodied not only skill and style, but strength of character, perseverance, and good sportsmanship.
Born in a cabin in the cotton fields of Alabama, Joseph Louis Barrow rose from poverty to national celebrity as Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber. Joe's explosive career spanned 71 professional fights over a period of 17 years. Combining a steady forward movement with a swift two-fisted attack, he could defeat his opponent with a punch from either hand. In 1937, Joe won the heavyweight crown by defeating James J. Braddock in 8 rounds. He defended his title 25 times and scored 20 knockouts in the course of those wins. Though Louis came up from humble beginnings in Alabama and struggled through unprivileged schooling in Detroit, he succeeded by hard work and determination. Nicknamed the Brown Bomber, Joe became a symbol of hope to racially segregated Americans. Joe enjoyed national celebrity, and his continued success became a point of pride for blacks and whites alike in the pre-World War II years. He defended his championship against all opponents during a record heavyweight reign of 11+ years. Joe's dramatic bouts were exciting worldwide news. Joe's marriage to Marva Trotter in 1935 was also big news. He made more news when he entered the Army. During the winter of 1941-42, Joe staged bouts for the Army and Navy. He quietly donated the purse from each bout to the Service Relief Fund. Throughout his career, Joe Louis made millions of dollars from boxing, but there were so many drains on that wealth that he ended up in debt, owing over $1 million in back taxes to Uncle Sam. Joe knew the famous people of the time. He was a generous friend and patron, helping associates, needy children, and charitable causes with equal big-heartedness. In 1949, he retired from boxing. During this press conference, he talked about his hopes and plans for the future.
Say, Joe, why did you give up the heavyweight championship of the world?
Well, I gave up the title because this was a fine opportunity that I have to promote fights and also to stay in boxing.
Back in the ends of our minds, we hope to see you fight again. Is there any chance that you might get tired of promoting one of these days and go back in the ring?
No, I don't think I'll get tired of promoting because I don't get hit as a promoter.
In 1950, financial troubles pushed Louis to attempt a comeback, but time had weakened his remarkable combination of reflexes, power, and endurance. What was not to be diminished was his amazing fight record and the lasting warmth and respect of fans and friends for the man, the patriot, the sportsman, and the national boxing champion, Joe Louis.
Joe Louis, a lifetime of achievements. Joe Louis moved with his family to Detroit in 1924. It was there that he first became involved in boxing. In 1934, at the age of 20, Louis won the Golden Gloves as a light heavyweight. Following this win, Joe turned professional. Within the first year of his professional boxing career, Joe Louis won 12 contests. In 1935, Louis continued his winning streak, defeating two former heavyweight champions, Primo Carnera and Max Baer. Seemingly invincible, Louis suffered the first and most painful defeat of his boxing career on June 19, 1936, when European heavyweight champion Max Schmeling defeated him in 12 rounds. In June of 1937, hard work, determination, and prowess paid off. Louis won the heavyweight title by knocking out reigning champion James J. Braddock. In the 12 years that followed, Louis successfully defended his heavyweight title 25 times and scored 20 knockouts in the course of those wins. A rematch with German Max Schmeling on June 22, 1938, resulted in a significant victory for Louis, a win which also countered the rising German belief in the physical and mental superiority of the Aryan race. In 1942, Joe Louis began a period of service in the Army and worked as a physical education teacher. 4 years later, he returned to the ring, successfully defending his title on 4 different occasions. Louis retired in March of 1949 as the undefeated heavyweight champ. In 1950 and again in 1951, Joe Louis returned to the ring, but failed to recapture his title. Joe Louis holds the distinction of having successfully defended his title more times than any other heavyweight in history, and is considered one of the greatest prize fighters of all time. James Jesse Cleveland Owens was born on September 12, 1913 in Oakville, Alabama. He died on March 31, 1980 in Tucson, Arizona. Jesse Owens' amazing athletic performance at the 1936 Olympics in Hitler's Berlin earned him 4 gold medals, achieving what no Olympian before him had accomplished. Owens' success shattered Hitler's theory that there was a supreme Aryan race and that blacks were its inferior. Jesse Owens changed the way people viewed black athletes and, more importantly, black people.
America's Olympic team sailed for the site of the 1936 Olympics in Nazi Germany, facing a challenge that unfortunately has nothing to do with sports. But Olympic officials were hopeful.
Thanks to the patriotic sportsmen of America, we're off to Berlin with the largest and finest team that we have ever sent abroad.
These American athletes would be competing in Hitler's Berlin, the center of the Nazi Empire. Surrounded by swastikas and Nazi speech-making about the superiority of the Aryan master race, they would confront Hitler's ideological challenge, that democracy was decadent and it bred inferior people. Hitler said the Olympic Games would prove the great strength of fascism. Hitler intended to use the victories he expected in many Olympic events to promote the theory of the greatness of his race. It was up to democracy's athletes to destroy this myth of Aryan supremacy. In the ranks of the American Olympic squad stood one young man who was about to trample the Nazis' race theories under his flashing spikes. His name was Jesse Owens. He had come from Alabama, a son of a sharecropper and grandson of slaves. At home, he excelled in field and track at Ohio State University, emerging as one of the great sports figures of his generation when he broke 3 world records and tied a 4th during a single competition in May 1935. But Jesse had no way of knowing that he was also about to crush Hitler's fanatical beliefs and humiliate the master race. Jesse earned his first gold medal in Berlin with a spectacular world record-breaking leap of 26 feet 5 inches. This amazing American athlete went on to win 3 more gold medals for the classic 100 and 200 meter dashes, and by anchoring the relay team that ran the German team into the ground. Despite Owens' outstanding athletic performances, Hitler refused to acknowledge his Olympic victories. Owens was welcomed home by proud Americans. Seen here with entertainer Bill Robinson and the great Jack Dempsey, Jesse spoke about his professional future.
Turn professional, I do not know. As I said before, I have another year in school, and I haven't any plans about turning professional whatsoever.
Jesse Owens, a legendary athlete and outstanding American.
James Jesse Cleveland Owens, a lifetime of achievements. Jesse Owens' family moved to Cleveland, Ohio in 1921. He was given the name Jesse when a teacher, confused by his southern accent, did not understand when he said his name was J.C. While attending Cleveland East Technical High School, Owens became a track star, tying world records and coming to the attention of college recruiters. Owens attended Ohio State University, competing in the Big Ten meet in Ann Arbor, Michigan on May 25, 1935. In a stunning performance, he broke 3 world records and tied a 4th, all in a 70-minute span. The following year, in Berlin, Jesse Owens entered the politically and racially biased Hitler Olympics, designed more to prove Nazi and Aryan superiority than to celebrate athletic skill and achievement. Owens earned 4 gold medals. Jesse Owens' Olympic success did not provide financial stability. To support his family, he left the university before his senior year to compete professionally. Owens was an expressive and entertaining lecturer and began taking numerous public speaking engagements. This eventually led to a successful career in public relations. Ohio State University accorded him an honorary degree and elected him a charter member of its Athletic Hall of Fame. In a 1950 Associated Press poll, Owens was voted the greatest track and field star of the first half of the century. President Gerald Ford presented Jesse Owens the Medal of Freedom in 1976, the highest honor the U.S. can bestow upon a civilian. In 1980, Jesse Owens died of lung cancer at the age of 66. He was elected to the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame in 1983. 10 years after Jesse Owens' death, President Bush posthumously awarded Owens the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor in recognition for his athletic achievements and humanitarian contributions to public service, civil rights, and international goodwill.
Gertrude Caroline Ederle was born to a German immigrant family on October 23, 1906 in New York City. Her father, Henry J. Ederle, was a successful butcher. Her mother, Gertrude Haverstraw Ederle, was a homemaker who reared 6 children. She was the first woman to swim the English Channel. She won 3 medals in the 1924 Olympics, and by the time she was 17, she held 18 world swimming records. In 1965, she was one of the first 21 inductees into the International Swimming Hall of Fame. She died November 30th, 1903, in Wyckoff, New Jersey.
On the morning of August 6, 1926, a 19-year-old athlete from America prepared to swim across the English Channel. Gertrude Ederle waited with youthful confidence as grease was applied to her body to protect her from the icy waters. Accepting the handshakes of well-wishers and a few last words of advice from her coach, she began the difficult journey of swimming through freezing waters and heavy undertows. This young woman was attempting a feat that only 5 men swimmers had done before. Hour after hour, she fought against the winds and currents that ripped across the channel. Words of encouragement came from the open boat that guided her path the 22 miles from England to France. Ederle had attempted to swim the channel the year before, but had been pulled out of the water exhausted, only 6 miles from shore. Newsmen wrote about how the swim was going for the waiting world. Gertrude had to eat specially prepared foods for nourishment and to give her energy. She had to eat without touching the boat. If she had, she would have disqualified. Giant ocean tugs towered above the small figure in the water. On that day, the sea was so rough that steamship crossings had been canceled, but Ederle swam on in spite of being buffeted by waves and plagued by seasickness. The weather and currents would force her to swim the equivalent of 35 miles to cover the 21-mile distance. Could she achieve what no woman had ever been able to do before? Mounting waves threatened to bash her against the convoy of accompanying boats. Fighting against winds and riptides, Gertrude Ederle was facing one of the roughest tests of human endurance. She walked ashore at Kingsdown on the Dover coast at 9:35 p.m. Gertrude Ederle had become the first woman ever to swim the English Channel. Her time was 14 hours and 31 minutes, shattering the existing record by more than 2 hours. New York rolled out its best red carpet for the biggest ticker tape parade of the time. 2 million people lined the streets to cheer and welcome the champion swimmer. Gertrude Ederle received a scroll of honor from Jimmy Walker, mayor of New York. The text of the scroll in part read, "To you for the indomitable courage, the skillful grace, the tremendous athletic prowess which enabled you to be the first woman in the world to swim the English Channel." It was then that she said, "It was for my flag that I swam, and to know that I could bring home the honors, and my mind was made up to do it." Then to newspaper reporters, she simply said, "I knew I could do it, I knew I would, and I did."
Gertrude Ederle, a lifetime of achievements. Ederle was among the first real sports heroines to prove that women are not physically inferior or incapable of strenuous activity. 4 years after her mother taught her to swim, Ederle set an 800-yard freestyle record. She was the youngest person to break a non-mechanical world record. At the age of 14, she defeated 51 other women in a 3.5-mile international race from Manhattan Beach to Brighton Beach. By the age of 17, Ederle held 18 world swimming records. During the 1924 Olympic Games in Paris, she won a gold and 2 bronze medals in the 5 racing events open to women. In 1925, she swam 21 miles from the Battery in Lower Manhattan to Sandy Hook, New Jersey in 7 hours and 11 minutes, bettering the men's record. By this time, Trudy held 29 national and world records. Gertrude Ederle first attempted to swim the English Channel on August 18, 1925. 8 hours and 46 minutes in the water with only 6 miles to go, a wave engulfed her and she stopped to spit out the salt water. Her trainer thought that she was collapsing and called a man swimming alongside her to grab her. He did, thus disqualifying her. Although Ederle said, "I could have gone on," there was no fame in defeat. Her hearing, which was impaired since childhood, was further damaged by her channel swim and eventually deteriorated into deafness. In 1965, she was one of the first 21 inductees into the International Swimming Hall of Fame.